What if I told you that 349 people died in the sky, not because of engine failure, not because of a storm, but because of a single sentence that was misunderstood? What if the deadliest mid-air collision in history happened because someone said, descend, when they should have said, stop? Stay with me because what you're about to hear will change the way you think about flying forever. November 12th, 1996. The clock shows 6:42 p.m. The sky above India looks peaceful, almost perfect. Two massive aircraft are sharing the same airspace, both following instructions from the ground, both trusting the system completely. Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763 is climbing steadily, carrying 312 souls on board, families heading home, children sleeping in their seats, crew members preparing drinks. Nobody suspects that in exactly 90 seconds, they will all be dead. At the same time, Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907 is descending through the clouds with 37 people on board. The pilots are calm. The passengers are relaxed. Everything seems normal. But something is terribly wrong. These two planes are not supposed to be anywhere near each other. They're supposed to be separated by thousands of feet of empty air. That's the rule. That's how aviation works. But right now, at this exact moment, they are on a direct collision course, and nobody realizes it yet. Inside the cockpit of the Kazakh plane, the radio crackles. Air traffic control gives them an instruction: descend to 15,000 feet. The co-pilot repeats the instruction back. The captain nods. They begin their descent. But here's where everything goes wrong. The instruction was clear: descend to 15,000 feet and hold that altitude. But the Kazakh crew doesn't stop at 15,000 feet. They keep descending. 14,500 feet, 14,000 feet, 13,800 feet. Why? Because they misunderstood. The co-pilot thought they were supposed to keep going lower. The captain didn't question it. They had full trust in each other, but that trust was built on a miscommunication that was about to kill everyone on both planes. Meanwhile, the Saudi plane is climbing exactly as instructed. The pilots are doing everything right. They're following the rules. They're at the correct altitude. They're exactly where they're supposed to be. But their radar shows something strange. Another aircraft is getting closer. Too close. The distance between them is shrinking fast. The Saudi pilots don't panic yet because they assume the other plane will correct its course. They assume air traffic control has everything under control. They assume everyone is following the same instructions. But assumptions in the sky are deadly. Assumptions don't give you a second chance. 6:40 p.m., the Saudi crew notices the Kazakh plane on their collision avoidance system. The screen shows a threat, a red warning. The alarm starts beeping, slowly at first, then faster. The co-pilot looks at the captain. The captain looks at the screen. They realize the other plane is not turning. It's not climbing. It's coming straight at them. The captain grabs the controls. He pulls back hard, trying to gain altitude, trying to climb above the danger. The engines roar. The plane tilts upward. Passengers feel the sudden change. Some people wake up. Some look around, confused. But nobody screams yet because nobody knows what's happening. Inside the cockpit, the pilots are fighting against time. They need just a few more seconds. Just a few hundred feet of altitude. Just a small margin of safety. But time is the one thing they don't have. On the Kazakh plane, the pilots finally see the Saudi aircraft. It appears suddenly through the clouds, massive and terrifying. They pull their controls too. They try to turn. They try to dive. But it's too late. The physics of aviation are unforgiving. A plane traveling at 500 miles per hour cannot stop or turn instantly. It cannot defy momentum. It cannot rewrite the laws of motion. The two aircraft are now less than 1,000 feet apart, then 500 feet, then 200 feet. The alarms in both cockpits are screaming non-stop. The pilots are yelling, the co-pilots are bracing, and the passengers still don't know. They don't know that in 5 seconds their lives will end. They don't know that this is their last moment. They don't know that the sky is about to explode. At exactly 6:42 p.m., the left wing of the Saudi plane slices directly into the tail section of the Kazakh aircraft. The impact is instant and catastrophic. Metal tears through metal like paper. Fuel ignites immediately. A massive fireball erupts in the sky, visible for miles. The Kazakh plane breaks apart in midair. The tail section separates. The fuselage splits open. Passengers are ripped from their seats and thrown into the freezing air at 14,000 feet. They fall in silence. They fall in darkness. They don't even have time to understand what happened. The Saudi plane doesn't survive either. The collision destroys its wing and damages its engines. The aircraft spins out of control, rolling sideways, nose diving toward the ground. Inside, the cabin becomes chaos. Oxygen masks drop. Luggage flies everywhere. People scream. But it doesn't matter. Within 10 seconds, the plane hits the ground at full speed. The impact is so violent that the wreckage is scattered across an entire village. Pieces of metal, pieces of seats, pieces of lives. All of it burned, all of it destroyed, all of it gone. Rescue teams arrive within 30 minutes, but there's nobody to rescue. Every single person on both planes is dead. 312 people on the Saudi flight, 37 people on the Kazakh flight, 349 lives erased in less than 3 seconds. Investigators immediately start searching for answers. They recover the black boxes from both planes. They interview air traffic controllers. They examine the wreckage. They analyze every second of communication. And what they discover is horrifying. This disaster was completely preventable. There was no mechanical failure. The engines were working. The instruments were accurate. The weather was clear. So what went wrong? Human error. Communication failure. An outdated system that relied too much on trust and too little on technology. Here's what actually happened. Air traffic control told the Kazakh plane to descend to 15,000 feet. But the Kazakh co-pilot barely spoke English. He understood the number 15,000, but he didn't fully understand the word maintain. In aviation, maintain means hold that altitude and don't go any lower. But the co-pilot thought it just meant descend to that number. So they kept descending past 15,000 feet, straight into the path of the Saudi plane. The Saudi pilots were following their instructions perfectly. They were climbing through 14,000 feet, exactly as planned. But nobody told them another plane was descending into their altitude. The air traffic controller didn't realize the mistake until it was too late. By the time he saw both planes on the same radar screen, they were already seconds from impact. He tried to radio them. He tried to warn them. But there wasn't enough time. The words left his mouth, traveled through the radio waves, and reached the cockpits exactly 2 seconds after the collision happened. 2 seconds too late. 2 seconds that could have saved 349 lives. After the disaster, aviation authorities launched one of the largest investigations in history. What they found changed air travel forever. First, they discovered that India's air traffic control system was outdated. Controllers were managing too many planes with too little technology. They didn't have modern radar. They didn't have collision warning systems. They were relying on paper strips and verbal communication, the same methods used in the 1960s. Second, they found that language barriers were a massive problem. Pilots from different countries spoke different levels of English. Instructions were misunderstood regularly. But nobody reported it because admitting confusion was seen as a weakness. Third, they realized that both planes had collision avoidance systems, but those systems gave contradictory instructions. One system told the Saudi pilots to climb. The other system told the Kazakh pilots to climb too. So both planes tried to go up, which actually brought them closer together instead of separating them. The world reacted with shock and anger. Families of the victims demanded answers. Airlines demanded changes. Governments demanded accountability. And slowly the aviation industry began to transform. New rules were created. Air traffic controllers were required to use clearer language. Pilots were trained to question instructions if something felt wrong. Collision avoidance systems were standardized so every plane would follow the same logic. Radar technology was upgraded across the world, and most importantly, the idea of see and avoid was replaced with technology and verify. But none of these changes brought back the 349 people who died that day. None of these upgrades erased the trauma of the families who lost their loved ones. And none of these improvements changed the fact that this disaster should never have happened in the first place. Aviation experts have a dark saying. They say that every safety rule in aviation is written in blood. Every regulation exists because someone died. Every procedure was created because of a tragedy. The mid-air collision over India in 1996 proved that saying true once again. It proved that the sky is unforgiving. It proved that small mistakes have massive consequences, and it proved that human error, not mechanical failure, is the deadliest threat in aviation. Today, flying is safer than ever. The chances of dying in a plane crash are 1 in 11 million. You're more likely to be struck by lightning. You're more likely to win the lottery. But that safety didn't come for free. It came at the cost of 349 innocent lives who boarded planes thinking they would land safely, thinking they would see their families again, thinking the sky would protect them. They were wrong, and their deaths are the reason you can fly today with confidence. If this story shook you, hit subscribe because the mysteries of the human mind and the tragedies we ignore are far from over.